Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovies inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh, thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. Print management, document management, get everything you need to the cloud. We're halfway through the year, man. Do a little assessment.
Whoa.
Do a print assessment. Do a document management assessment.
Whoa.
See where you're wasting money and where you can save money with our friends at Copiers Plus. Did it just hit you?
Yeah.
We're halfway through the year.
Whoa.
Which means we're ever so closer to the start of the football season. We'll be at ACC kickoff next week. That's going to be an interesting week for sure. I will say this about the ACC versus the SEC this week. At least with the ACC, there's interesting things to talk about. It's been abundantly clear during SEC media days, there is nothing to talk about. They're just regurgitating what they said during the spring meetings about we're the toughest conference. And I'm sure Greg Sankey really practiced in the mirror ahead of his press availability when I think the line that got me with major hand wank was, there's a lot of talk of super leagues. Welcome to one. Dude, I bet that's slayed in the hotel mirror. I'm sure that's slayed. Come on, man. And we saw Chip Patterson up here. He was getting his haircut with Leanne from Cover 3. And he pointed out to me that I guess it was Lane Kiffin was talking to Paul Feinbaum, because there was this talk, thanks to Greg McElroy, that, Nick Saban might be thinking about a return. He'll be 75 by the time he's back in coaching, if that's the case. And I guess Lane Kiffin said, wow, we really have nothing to talk about at SEC Media Days if this is the topic. So
Nick Saban's coming back to be Bill Belichick's defensive coordinator, right?
Oh, is that what's going on?
I think so.
You know, that might tie into today's brief history of Triangle Good. All of the fantasy bookings that we made for a lot of coaching searches. And that is where we will get started with this week's edition of a brief history of Triangle Good.
Triangle Good, your team is very triangle good. Not bad or great, just triangle good. Pack wheels and Duke triangle.
Big thanks to our friends at Color Graphic for sponsoring Brief History of Triangle Good. You can hit them up directly, sales@colorgraphic.com. You might be going to P Street Market to buy some of our OG light beer. You see that sign that Giglio has pulled up on the YouTube stream? They did that. If you went to Two Roosters to get our ice cream, there's a sign with our faces on it promoting our ice cream. You know who did that? Color Graphic. Those prints behind Giglio, Color Graphic. So hit them up. Sales@colorgraphic.com.
It's almost golf tournament season as well. You're hosting a golf tournament. Well, they can do all those tee box signs for you as well. Wrap your car, you name it. They can handle it. Color Graphic, sales@colorgraphic.com.
Let's just go ahead and start with a shock graphic. Today's topic is the Mount Rushmore of coaching searches. But as I was doing research on this the past week, I almost wanted to reframe it as a brief history of you can't always get what you want.
Okay.
You know, and every school's dealt with it. Every school's dealt with it. So let's start with a shock graphic. Durham Herald Sun. Dateline, July 6th, 2000. Al Featherston, byline, RIP Al Featherston, a real one. Roy Williams says yes to Heels. Williams heads back to tell Kansas players of agonizing decision to come to Carolina. As we scroll in, Williams flew back to Kansas Wednesday night to tell former players and associates that he will become the next head basketball coach at the University of North Carolina. The Herald Sun has learned that Williams, college basketball's winningest coach over the last decade, accepted the position Tuesday afternoon after almost 5 days of agonizing indecision. That sounds like Roy Williams, does it not?
It does.
He agreed to a 7-year deal subject to approval by the board to replace Bill Guthridge, who retired Friday after 3 years on the job, coming off a Final Four run, by the way. Roy Williams, 49, was in Chapel Hill Tuesday to meet with UNC Athletics Director Dick Bedour. Former head coach Dean Smith returned to Lawrence to break the news to his players and the Kansas athletic director Bob Frederick, the man who hired him in 1988. Quote, "I just want to try and put this all to a close," Williams said Wednesday night after landing at the Kansas City airport. "The last 7 days have been the most difficult of my life." So he's very, very torn. Except, even though Al Featherston had 3 sources, I believe this paper sits in the journalism school at UNC as a great, hey, man, you might have it all lined up, but the great X factor in all of this is the individual making the decision himself. And of course, it's a well-trodden story. Roy Williams goes back to Kansas. He's looking at these freshmen who he's really invested in. He's like, I can't do it. I can't. And he decides, no. I didn't sign a contract, so I'm going to go ahead and not go to Carolina. Instead, he is going to stay, which of course, look, man, the internet, sometimes you think the internet is where you can find everything. It's not that easy in this day and age, especially with a lot of servers just getting shut down over time, right? But I found this super grainy footage. Something tells me this was shot on a Sony Handycam back in 2000. Roy Williams at a press conference with the AD. This is shot at a Jumbotron for Kansas football stadium. And he says this.
I'm staying.
And that's the end of it. He's staying. And that, of course, sends North Carolina into a very interesting, got to keep it in the family coaching search, Joe.
Find someone who loves you the way that Roy Williams to this day loves Kirk Heinrich and Nick Collison.
Right.
We sat down. We've spent a lot of time with Roy Williams, but we asked him specifically about this, and he said it was Duke, by the way. It was Duke. He is so fucking competitive that when he was recruiting Collison, if you don't remember, was a kind of a classic Big Four. He was a Tyler Hansbrough before Tyler Hansbrough. And he was this big recruit that Duke wanted. And I believe he told us it was Steve Wojciechowski who had the nerve to tell Nick Collison, if you go to Kansas, if you pick Kansas over us, Roy Williams will not be your coach. You should come to Duke because Mike Krzyzewski is going to be your coach the whole time. And that got back to him, obviously. And God, did it bother him. Bothered him so much that in 2020, when we sat down with him, he was like,
he was still mad about it. He was still mad about that.
Like Roy doesn't get caught up in the Duke thing. He hates State way more than he hates Duke.
Yes.
But God, that stuck with him from his time in Kansas. And he still goes to Nick Collison's golf tournaments and retirements and all these other things. Heinrich, I think, has a tournament out in Montana somewhere.
Can we go? I love Montana. I love Big Sky Country. Come on now.
So that gives you a glimpse. And also the important part there was Bob Frederick, the AD. And so for people who are like, well, Roy went against his word and did all this. No, the AD changed at Kansas when Bob retired. Brad's dad, one of the coaches at Carolina now, and was assistant under Roy as well. And when the new guy came in, Lou Perkins, and Roy did not like him. They didn't get along.
No.
And then what had happened in 2003, of course, after the great Doherty era, and Roy comes back home because, as Dean Smith said to him, Coach Smith said to him, we wanted you last time. We need you this time. Yeah. And that's why he comes back. In the wanted phase of 2000, let's try to take ourselves back in the Wayback Time Machine, because
in the Wayback Time Machine, here's the following day in the Durham Herald Sun, July 7th, 2000. Roy Williams, I'm staying. Ex-UNC assistant rejects Tar Heel offer. Veteran Kansas coach stays. Decision was toughest he'd ever faced. Apologized to Smith, Guthridge, and Baddour. By the way, Dick Baddour had a hell of a 6-month run in 2000, which we will be getting into in this obvious opening segment. So it's like UNC family stunned by decision. This is key here. Family stunned by decision. So, Joe, we got to go back to the family, right?
Yeah. So this one is super interesting in this sense. Roy was always kind of the one that we had from the outside ticketed to be the one to follow Dean Smith. Roy Williams went to Carolina. Dean Smith went to Kansas. And it was always kind of written in the stars that this was going to happen. And that stubborn loyalty to Collison and Heinrich delayed Roy's return home. And in the interim, you're thinking, well, there's got to be somebody else. At the time, here were their other choices. The other person that had been ticketed and was a longtime assistant and is to this day, arguably, as my mentor, Colton Turner, always taught me, Phil Ford's the best player in the history of Carolina basketball. Dean Smith, who was a champion for integration, civil rights, and really kind of pushing Chapel Hill, you can't use the word progressive anymore, but in a progressive direction back in the late 60s, early 70s. I do believe he really wanted Phil Ford to be, if Roy wasn't going to be it, I think he had in his own back of his mind that Phil Ford was going to be the one who replaced him.
Slight problem.
Phil Ford ended up with 2 different DUIs, lost his license, couldn't recruit. So it was like, can't hire a guy, can't go out and recruit, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I had gone back to the Wayback Machine and I pulled up this Andy Katz article. This was before Roy Williams decided, no, I'm going to go back to Kansas.
Yeah.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can see the ancient technology that was ESPN on Thursday, June 29th, 2000. And they have a list of guys. And sure enough, at the bottom, Phil Ford. And the reason why Katz put Phil Ford at the bottom, we had already gone through the DUI situation.
Yeah.
And he mentions involved in a DUI earlier this season. Ford is well liked in North Carolina family, still has recognition nationally. The timing does not help, blah, 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 blah. But some of the other names that ended up coming up were ones that I remember at that time. Eddie Fogler at South Carolina, Larry Brown with the 76ers, George Karl with the Bucks. Those are interesting in the sense that Larry Brown, I always thought that was hilarious that North Carolina would kick the tires on Larry Brown. I get it. But everywhere Larry Brown went in college, left with an aftermath of problems.
Yeah.
So it just would have fast forwarded the great troubles.
It was kind of comical, believe it or not, at the time.
Yes.
Because it was a lot of lip service at the time. Like Eddie Fogler was not very good at South Carolina.
No.
Eddie Fogler was not going to be given the keys to the fucking kingdom.
Buzz Peterson was another one of those names. He had come.
Buzz Peterson soiled himself by going and working at NC State. He was not. They were not turning it over to Buzz Peterson.
Right, but there was one. Okay. There's one in there. Matt Doherty. We got to get back to Matt Doherty at some point. He had just done a good enough job at Notre Dame in one season.
So Matt Doherty's 38. He had been an assistant, which I had forgotten.
Yeah,
I had forgotten all of this. Matt Doherty had been a long-time assistant for Roy Williams at Kansas. And then goes and gets the Notre Dame job, went 22-15 at Notre Dame, took him to the NIT. Matt Doherty was 38 years old. Never take a coach after they would leave somewhere after 1 year. That is a cardinal rule of anywhere. Don't take a guy who's willing to leave a job after 1 year.
But it's the North Carolina job.
They felt like they didn't have any other choices.
Yeah.
They felt that way.
Yeah, what were the choices? Now that I'm like thinking about it, going back into my brain, I had just started at 850 The Buzz as a part-timer.
Yeah.
That summer 2000. Okay. So I was just, I remember the information stuff that came out through me or for me was call screening and dealing with Carolina fans that had their fantasy lists, right? David Glenn and producing that Saturday morning show. And Dave was very plugged in, which, that's another story altogether, the Matt Doherty falling out just 3 years later, right? So you're getting it channeled through that and his information.
It's funny because you like to say history isn't cyclical, it rhymes.
It rhymes. Yeah, it's an old saying.
Well, I guess we're going to find out where the rubber meets the road next offseason because they were not willing in 2000, while Smith was alive, they were not willing to go outside of his coaching tree.
That's why it was a hard and fast rule. That's why you got Larry Brown. That's why you got George Karl. And those dudes were not leaving the NBA.
To the point where we had to write stories like Eddie Fogler has taken himself out of consideration. Like, yeah, no shit. The guy who can't win at South Carolina is magically going to figure it out in Chapel Hill.
Carolina.
Come on.
It's
Get the hell out of
They
here.
got everything going for him. Well, how could he not win at Carolina?
Things I had to learn about politics the hard way back then. It's funny, though. It's funny. Because Smith in his book wrote the coach he actually wanted to hire after the coach he at least posited that Carolina should consider was Rick Majerus.
Yes.
He basically looked at Majerus, who had beaten one of Guthridge's really, really good teams with Anton Jameson, and said, that guy is a coach's coach. You bring him here at our school with our resources, you're going to have the coachiest of coaches.
Yeah. And
we can figure it out. Maybe Matt gets a little bit older. Maybe Roy reconsiders. We can bridge this thing a little bit. And Coach Smith was the one who at that point at least considered going outside the family. But as we learned when Roy was retired, Going outside the Carolina family is not the Carolina way.
No.
Is not.
And Bubba Cunningham learned that 3 years ago now?
Bubba made some calls.
Mhm.
Now, it didn't get very far with Jay Wright, didn't get very far with Mark Few.
He had to make those calls.
But he made the calls.
Yes.
It didn't go far.
No.
And then the overwhelming response from the former players was, we want Hubert Davis.
Mm-hmm.
And the overwhelming response in 2000 was, you can't go outside the Carolina family.
No.
Give 38-year-old Matt Doherty, give Matt Doherty the starter on the 82 championship team. Give him a chance, or a player on the 82
He's young. He's going to be here for 30 years.
You can keep him, and he'll be great.
Because that was the argument in favor of him.
And
so
Guthridge, even though he went to the Final Four twice, had lost 5 straight games to Duke. Wait a second.
Recruiting too.
And then there was recruiting.
Recruiting was a big deal.
But it wasn't just that he was losing 5 straight games to Duke.
I know.
He was losing recruits to Duke.
Can't have that happen.
Now, wait a second, Joe. You're telling me what happens in the triangle doesn't happen in a vacuum?
No.
What? Wait a second. What the other 2 parts of the triangle does matters?
What?
No. I refuse to believe that. Refuse.
Which comes into play for football. Fast forward a few months. So they get this all figured out. All right.
Oh, you just yada. You just really pulled. Kelly was just like talking in the back. She was just working the back of your head there, because you just glossed over that Matt Doherty was a complete and utter total fucking failure.
Well, I mean, that's its own
To
time.
this day.
That's its own episode.
To this day, you really just whatever the movie is with the button where like, oh yeah, that didn't fucking happen.
Men in Black.
It's like,
I hit you with the flash pen.
Like,
No. I mean, look. I mean, well, to your point, I'd put this into I put this in the hopper, because like, let's just go ahead and fast forward 3 years. Roy Williams gets to the point with his guys. Remember, he came back, Collison and the crew built it up, because college basketball was different back then. You actually knew you had these guys for 3 to 4 years. It builds up to what, Joe? Where does he go with that Kansas squad?
championship game down in New Orleans. Roy had not won his title yet. Dean Smith won his first title in New Orleans.
Yes.
They played Syracuse.
Yeah.
Had an outstanding freshman or two.
Yeah.
They could not make free throws. Could not make free throws.
Free throw awareness month. So here we go.
Understandably, you didn't want to address this. Very understandably, you didn't want to address this issue during the week, but many people out there with the game over want to know what your level of interest is in the North Carolina job, Coach.
Bonnie, I could give a flip about what those people want. As a journalist, you have to ask that question. I understand that, but as a human being, that's all those people that want that answer to know right now, they're not very sensitive.
If they offer you the job, though, would you be willing to take it?
I haven't thought about that for 1 second. And the guy in your ear that told you have to ask that question, as a journalist, that's fine. But as a human being, that's not very nice, because it's not very sensitive. And I got to think that in tough times that people should be more sensitive. I could give a about North Carolina right now. I've got 13 kids in that locker room that I love.
Coach, thank you.
Off he goes. And of course, he ends up taking the North Carolina job because he had to save UNC after what had happened with Matt Doherty. I'm not trying to yada Matt Doherty. In fact, actually,
sometimes you gotta, it's over here somewhere.
What's
it's
that?
Here for a reason.
What's that?
It's the only time NC State's ever taken over the Smith Center.
Oh, yeah. I was there for that game. I was there for that game in 2002 for as a student.
The only time.
Or that was there was another time that happened. If
that was the real takeover.
That was the real one? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Maybe that's its own special episode one day. When we come up on an anniversary. Yeah, I'm not trying to yada. The Matt Doherty implosion is its own story. I mean, that's its own podcast. I actually remember doing a special episode about that with Dave Glenn, because he was the one that was like front facing when it came to exposing all the crap that was happening behind the scenes with Matt Doherty and led to his ouster. Outside of just the wins and the losses.
Yeah.
It was just, it went beyond
how he treated the players.
It went beyond just the wins and the losses. And that's why he ended up going out there. And it's one of those reminders that I try to explain as we talk about things now. Just because you have it good now doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have it good forever. And just because you have it in your head, who's going to come replace this guy doesn't necessarily shake out that way. And Carolina learned the real hard way for that 3-year span. Oh man, it ain't turnkey like we thought it was. I think Carolina fans are obviously having that thought now in terms of it ain't as turnkey as we thought it was. But what's interesting about 25 years ago with North Carolina and Dick Bedour as the AD, they took two really big swings in 2000. The first one felt like it was a slam dunk. Now, to Dick Bedour's credit, he's been on record about this. And we've talked to him about this shortly after he had announced his retirement. And when Roy Williams retired, I think that was the last time we talked to Dick Bedour on record, was after Roy Williams announced his retirement. Dick Bedour, to this day, is adamant about the fact that he did not take it for granted that Roy was going to come in 2000. He courted Roy Williams. Yeah. I believe, I want to say Greg Barnes did a definitive piece on this back in like 2018, where he got Dick Bedour on, no, I'm sorry, it was the Carolina Insider Pod with Jones Angel. And they got Dick to talk about how, like, oh yeah, like, what do you want to eat? It's like, I just want barbecue, man. And they went and got Wilbur's. Like, they did the whole thing. A little bit better than going to a Dunkin' Donuts at midnight just outside the arena if you're John Calipari, which we'll get to later. So to Bedour's credit, he understood if this was not something that you could take for granted. And I think there was some, cordial nature of, all right, Roy's going to do the right thing. He's going to come home. We can sign the contracts later. He almost learned his lesson because let's fast forward to November. Okay. The great Carl Torbush experiment did not work. So it was time to go in a different direction. And they decided to take a big swing at Frank Beamer, who was at Virginia Tech. And Beamer, in his book, was very glowing about North Carolina and his thought that they could win at North Carolina. This is not sleeping giant stuff. This wasn't like, he looked at the facilities. He looked at basketball as a plus. He's looked at all these things that he thought would help him elevate what he was trying to do as a football coach at North Carolina.
To your point about the sleeping giant. Mac Brown in 96 goes 10-2. They finished number 10 in the country. They come back the next year. They go 10-1 under Mac. He leaves for Texas. Carl Torbush, his longtime defensive coordinator, takes over for him. They beat in the Gator Bowl Frank Beamer and Virginia Tech. They finish 11-1 and number 6 in the country. So Mac's last 2 years, they're a top 10 program 2 years in a row.
Yes.
Which we hadn't seen before.
Nope.
And we haven't seen since anywhere in the triangle. Okay. So those were the high water marks. That was not some pipe dream that somebody, if you had the right coach, you could come in and turn this thing into a top 10 program. It was a reality. Now, Torbush, let's keep in mind, because again, you might have just, the state fan in me is coming out here now. You're yada over the bad parts of Carolina, which I will not let stand on this program.
Oh, what? Like they were going to fire Torbush, but then they didn't fire Torbush.
Great moments in Carolina history.
Great moments in Carolina history, yes.
The next team, so Mac has that thing running molten hot.
Yeah, they go to the Gator Bowl with Torbush as the interim coach.
The next team goes 7 in 98. Torbush goes 7-5. There were some quarterback injuries. You're thinking, it'll get better. It'll get better. 99, they start 1-8.
Yeah.
They lose to Furman.
Yeah.
And they're 1-8. They fired him. Fired him.
But they didn't.
They fired him.
I actually went back and looked. Steve Kirshner's on record saying, "Oh, no. No, it was reported his ass was fired."
This was not barring a Roy Williams like turnaround.
No. Shout out to Greg Doyle who had that headline.
So they're 1-8. He's gone.
Yes.
But it's like, well, the last 2 games are against State and Duke.
Yeah.
They go to Charlotte and beat State with a safety playing quarterback. And then they romp Duke, and then they're like rush the field because all of the players were like, come on, let's keep Uncle Carl.
Guy.
We love Carl. We can still do this.
Yes.
What's wild to me?
Man had pit vipers. How could you say no?
You know what's wild to me? In 0-0, they go 6-5. I mean, so his 3 teams, 7-5, 3-8, and 6-5. I'm sitting here saying, why are you yada yada yada? The bad, like, was that really that bad?
No.
7-5, 3-8, 6-5.
They were not really.
How about Matt Doherty? Matt Doherty, 26-7, National Coach of the Year. 8-20. Of course. 8-20 was
can't
brutal.
have that.
Okay.
Can't have that.
His third team was 19-16 and incled the recruiting class that would win a national championship 2 years later.
Again, it wasn't about the wins and losses for Matt Doherty.
I'm just saying, like, I misremember how bad it really was for Carolina. It wasn't that bad. I'm pointing this out because State's supposed to be the cuckoo clock fan base.
Yes.
Running coaches out of town on a rail.
Well,
Herb Sendek never got a fair chance there.
it's about hubris. It's about money. It's about
Money,
Weird Carolina,
money,
which
money.
gets us to Frank Beamer. Hey,
Yes.
we should be good at both. And let's go out and get Frank Beamer. So Beamer meets with Bedour. This is, you want to talk about headlines. This is November 27th, 2000, News and Observer sports page. Canes, Irbe routed. Marion Jones wins IAAF Athlete of the Year award. That wouldn't come back later, now would it? Jim Caldwell fired with a Dave Droshak byline.
Whoa, look at that byline next to you in the soccer story.
JP Giglio
Whoa.
talking soccer.
Whoa.
Hey, you covering Carolina soccer? Look at you.
Woo.
Who would have known? Who'd have thought? We got a Viv Bernstein Panthers fast start, a distant memory.
Is that Fox looking 1,000 years old?
No, that's Mike
Oh,
McCormick.
I was like, Jesus, he aged.
Yeah. That's one way to do it. Oh, look at that. WRBZ 850. That's right. We carried games back in the day. Jim Caldwell fired because they kept losing to App State back then. You can't do that now. Now, Caldwell's a decent coach, but it showed you how difficult it was to win Wake Forest. But here we are. Frank Beamer huddles with UNC AD Dick Bedour in Chapel Hill. Beamer could be named Heels coach as early as today. Look at that byline. Barry's Faluga, Chip Alexander, Colton Tudor. Back when newspapers were running hot.
Wow.
So Beamer does the thing, very nice place, blah, 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 blah. I talked to Dick Bedour and he requested permission to talk to
place.
very nice place. This is Weaver, the AD at Virginia Tech at the time. We granted permission. I called Frank and told him to expect a call from Dick Bedour. I'm sure that's occurred. The fact that Beamer was in Chapel Hill was the latest in a series of long-going indications that he could take the job. So
that was us because I was there.
Okay.
Couching. That was us couching like, hey, they think they have a deal with Beamer. And I remember
they had a handshake deal, Joe. They shook it. This is something that both Dick Bedour and Frank Beamer agreed on. They shook on the deal.
I can't give away Tudor's source on this one, but he was like, I think it's going to happen. He's like, but it's not done.
Okay.
Meanwhile, down in Charlotte, who at the time, it was two separate newspapers and Greg Doyle was there and Greg was, full of piss and vinegar at the time, thinking he was going to break news and would always poo-poo us a little bit about our Herb coverage.
Yeah.
And, what are you guys doing? You're always like feeding into these state fans. And it's like, oh, Lord.
Remember, Greg had Notre Dame in the ACC.
Yeah. So Greg wrote that same day, barring a Roy Williams-like turnaround, Frank Beamer will be North Carolina's next football coach.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't quite a Roy Williams-like turnaround. It was more of like, hey, at the time, so context-wise, Beamer was 54.
Mm-hmm.
His 99 team is the one that had lost in the national championship. His 00 team also went 11-1. So he had back-to-back 11-1 teams.
He also had Mike Vick.
He would have been gone.
No, he was thinking about coming back for another season at that time.
So they were running hot at Virginia Tech. He had just finished his 10th year at Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech was in the Big East at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what had happened was they were lagging a little bit behind in their financial commitment. Wink, wink, nod, nod, if you will. And I think he was able to use this as an ability to say, you know what? I'm better off staying here, kicking Carolina's ass, recruiting in the Tidewater area, which is where Mac Brown had his success recruiting, and decided he was going to stay in Blacksburg.
One quick correction. That was Vick's last season, but if I remember correctly in going back and researching, and actually was in Beamer's book, he did not know if Vick was going to come back or not. Like the decision to go talk to Carolina was not predicated on Mike Vick.
Right. I'm just saying, I think people forget that they had 2 11-1 seasons in a row.
Yes.
But to the point where in their football facility, they had an empty glass display and it said, this is for when we win the national championship.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was how close they were. Obviously, that Florida State game with Vick goes down as one of the greatest in college football history. But And obviously they're still waiting, but they really believe that's how close they were.
Yeah.
And again, it wasn't a pipe dream. 11-1, 2 years in a row.
Yeah. And college football at that time was completely different.
You
where
do
you
it
could
now,
do that.
but you do it now. You're in the playoff. I mean,
yeah.
Shit. Good luck beating Vic in a playoff.
I know.
Or any of those special teams that Beamer had. Beamer ball.
Yeah.
You know?
So they had a handshake agreement. Dick Bedour tells the story. He's told us the story. He knew it was a mistake in the moment. They wanted Beamer to stay overnight to have the press conference the following day. I think it was a Saturday into a Sunday. But the Beamers were like, no. I got to go back because I got to tell people what's happening. Of course, he goes back. Just like Roy Williams, he goes back. He's like, man, I can't do this. I'm a grad here. Look what it's built. I cannot leave. And Beamer tells the story that he called Dick Bedour that morning. And Bedour was, as he puts it, cordial about it. Now, Dick Bedour is one of the nicest men you will ever freaking meet.
Yes.
So this is a genuine thing where Bedour, clearly, he's like, I could tell he was mad, but because if you're Dick Bedour, like, holy fuck.
I told you not to go home.
This is happening to me again? This happened to me 6 fucking months ago. This shit's happening again? So Dick, of course, is like, all right, I understand, yada. But Beamer goes on to say that over the years, Bedour kind of was like a lot nicer about it, even though he was nice on the phone at that time. And this probably ties in a little bit into not just recruiting in the Tidewater area and things like that, a little bit of the friction between Virginia Tech and North Carolina, especially with Virginia Tech fans.
Yeah.
There's old time Virginia Tech fans who are still kind of like, you try to get our guy. It didn't happen. Here we are today, right? So Beamer says no. This, of course, then launches Carolina into yet another trope of the time. So with basketball, I understood. It was hey, Carolina family, got to keep it in the family, this lineage, yada. With football, there's not that, but the trend at the time was getting an old player that was going to come home and save the day.
Wasn't a trend. It was
also something that State had just done with Chuck.
Wait a second. You mean the other two parts of the triangle matter?
What?
No.
So Chuck Amato comes out of the gate hot, his rookie coaching year with freshman Phillip Rivers.
So in 2000, NC State beat Carolina in Chapel Hill. It was their first win over Carolina since 1992.
Crazy.
First win in 7 years. And Chuck at the time was, hey,
we're running hot.
We're running hot.
Bino Cook's telling me and Adam Cole, man, you're lucky to have Chuck. He's going to go back to Florida State when Bowden retires.
So what worked for State? They went and got a former player, loves their school more than anything. Hey, kind of like a long-suffering assistant, had put his time in, has been biding his time. His dream job was NC State. Former linebacker, John Bunning, longtime assistant in the NFL, grinding his way.
Vince Papale stories.
He was on that Eagles team.
Yes.
And then he was a coach with Dick Vermeil, won the Super Bowl.
The Dick Vermeil stories, man.
Gosh, just like Bobby Bowden winning titles, Dick Vermeil winning titles. And you know what? His dream job, it truly was his dream job.
It was
to be the head coach at the University of North Carolina. I will say, I don't think I've ever met anyone who has loved Carolina football as much as John Bunning.
He's also the last coach Carolina has had that understands the state game is the game that matters. All these other coaches' biggest folly, and it might be one for Bill Belichick too.
And he got Chuck's number.
Did he have Chuck's number? He definitely got Chuck's number. So there you go. The year 2000. 6 months in 2000. The worst 6 months possible when it comes to this coaching stuff. And they took big swings. Now, this Frank Beamer example is really the first, because I think wasn't Jim Donnan also in the mix too? I think Jim Donnan had told Dick Bedour no, or that was just the way it got out.
Two of Colton Tudor's favorites to always throw out were Jim Donnan.
I know.
And the guy with the radio guy, Logan.
Yeah, Steve Logan.
At ECU. God, he loved Logan. Something fierce.
He did.
Same way with Mike Bray. If there was ever a job open,
now
Tudor was like, Mike Bray could take that job. And then same thing with, hey man, Steve Logan. Hey, I don't know what you're waiting for. The name I had forgotten from the budding search was Marty Schottenheimer.
I don't remember this at all.
Marty Schottenheimer, at this point in his NFL career, remember Marty Schottenheimer was in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Had kind of peaked. They lose the famous playoff games.
Yep.
He ends up taking the Kansas City job. He runs hot at Kansas City. He has 2-13-3 teams. They both lose without winning so much as a playoff game. He got fired in Kansas City in 98 after the 98 season. So he had been out there for 99 and 00.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Throws his name in the ring and ultimately had told him, nah, I don't want to coach college football.
Okay.
I'll coach in the NFL.
I don't remember Schottenheimer.
He gets a one-off deal with the Redskins and the idiot owner who fired him.
Yeah.
And then he ends up going to San Diego where he gets to coach Bill Phillip.
That's right.
So
and not win playoff games.
He got his triangle connection.
He does.
After all.
He does. But the Beamer, that was the first real big swing for Carolina football after the homegrown build up for Mac.
That was their intention. The first time of them saying,
yes,
we want to be serious about the football business.
And because Dick Vidor had already developed a reputation at that time of not being able to close the deal when they fired John Bunting, Vidor was essentially sidelined in that search.
They fired John Bunting, 4 or 5 games into that season?
Yeah, and at that point,
Florida game, just as I predicted,
and they did that so they could get a jump start on
James Madison,
on Butch Davis, because Butch Davis was, his stint in Cleveland was a failure, so it was pretty obvious. Like most NFL college coaches that go to the NFL and fail, they're going to come back. You got to be in the right spot. So Carolina, the money Carolina people were absolutely right to move on from Bunting when they did, so they could start the process to land the Butch Davis plane.
Yes.
Which was just the other example of, all right, we're going to take this next big swing for football. And of course, that's its own story about how that all played out. Of course, all these things don't matter today, but back then they did. And also the reputation that Carolina had and what they were doing with football, and don't you dare touch basketball. And of course, we know the rest of the history. But Vidor, unfortunately, was kind of sidelined, and I remember that one vividly, in that this was just a money thing. The money guys were the ones that were making the deals here. The money guys were the ones that were in contact with Butch Davis to make sure that thing landed. They got it, and that was going to be the great. All right, Carolina's cooking now. They're going to be like the Florida Gators, great in basketball, great in football. Obviously, that did not pan out when it was all said and done.
Housekeeping.
Big thanks to Enovana for sponsoring Housekeeping. You can check them out online at enovana.com.
If you have mess inside your mansion or trash in your cabana, get it clean with Enovana.
Folks, we have a lot of housekeeping things. We were staying busy in the summer. So tomorrow, 4 o'clock, Shady's in Garner. We're going to be doing a Butcher's Market OG live from Shady's. 4 o'clock. We're going to have free wings from Wings Over. We're going to have free ice cream from Two Roosters, and we're going to have a keg of OG Light with the unveiling in person of our actual tap handle. Very excited about this. Big thanks Dimitri for putting this thing together. So that's going to be at 4 o'clock. We're going to go live. I think Nick Stevens is going to drop on by too to talk about some high school stuff with us. But free wings, free ice cream. You pay for the beer.
Got to pay for the beer.
Got to pay for the beer. Legal reasons. You got to pay for the beer.
Correct.
So drop on by. We'll be hanging out after the show and things like that, because I got to wear off the beer and the ice cream and the wings. I might fall asleep. They have a couch there at Shady's.
They do.
So be there, 4 o'clock. That's when we start at Shady's. Also, we've got, speaking of OG Light, we're going to have OG Light at the Rialto for the Sports Podcast Festival. Ooh. Year 2. Very excited about this. Folks, buy some freaking tickets, please. Okay, it's going to be a good time. I'm not getting to begging mode here. Just buy some tickets.
Okay.
People who went last year had a great time. We're going to guarantee another great time. I might go shirtless like Felder.
Whoa.
Who knows?
Whoa.
All I know is that you can go to the Rialto.com, buy Sports Podcast Festival tickets today. It's going to be us, Split Zone Duo. Who knows? Will Wade might show up. Who's to say? Big Screen Sports with our friend Caroline Darney. OG Light, our friends from Home Field, will be in the house with an awesome exclusive shirt. If you love the hoodie from last year, you're going to love the shirt from this year. So go to the Rialto.com. Buy your tickets today. Speaking of buying things, you can go to ogtrianglemediashop.com and go get our summer pop-up shop extravaganza. We got comfort color tees with the triangle good, the 3 towers. We got a pocket tee with the Dead Conference logo on the front, and then the 3 towers on the back. We got the Drunk Wolf. Drunk OG is back. New and improved print on a comfort colors tee and a tank top, by the way. And of course, the hat vault is back open. We've got our Richardson 112 trucker hat with the OG flag patch on it in different colors. And of course, we've got the limited edition OG Hat Vault Golf Classic.
Whoa.
Once that rope hat goes back into the vault,
staying there with Steamboat Willie.
Staying there with Song of the South. You're never going to see it again. Doesn't exist. Does not exist. So head on over to ogtrianglemediashop.com. And of course, we've been mentioning OG Light. You can get OG Light in cans. I think our new home base is at P Street Market in downtown Raleigh.
Yes.
There's a few cases over there, right?
Yep.
You were there yesterday with the sign.
I was.
Very excited. You can, of course, get OG Light at Longleaf Swine. Check them out, longleafswine.com. They do special one-off dinners as well. They got a whiskey dinner coming up, so go to their website to check that out. Brunch is fantastic, and of course, more importantly, you can get cans of OG Light to go with your delicious food at Longleaf Swine. You can also get OG Light at the Butcher's Market. I was texting with Kenneth today. I know you will be able to get it at the Lake Boone location and at the Raleigh location off of Falls, the Noose, and Millbrook. I think we're working on some other locations as well, but I do know it will be there, I think, by the end of the week.
Okay.
So Butcher's Market will have OG Light. And while you're there, just pick up some stuff to grill. Get some pre-made meals that you can just stick in the oven and not worry about it. They got all sorts of great stuff. Get a sandwich. Pop a road soda in the parking lot while you're having a sandwich. Just saying.
As long as you're not driving.
Don't drive. Sit in the parking lot and do it. Don't drive, though. Don't drive, though. What?
You can't promote a road soda.
I said a road soda. We're not bound by FCC rules. Don't do
Your
that, folks.
lawyer wife
Don't do it.
argue otherwise.
Don't do it. Don't do it. PSA, don't do it. Go to Two Roosters instead. You can eat ice cream on the road. You can eat ice cream on the road. There's nothing stopping you from having our peanut butter fudge ice cream from Two Roosters. You can also order a cake. So go order a cake.
Yeah, try to save it.
Go to tworoosters.com today. Find out more. By the way, I was at, it was funny. Jacob had a Junior Canes meetup yesterday.
Okay.
And the kids were like, yo, I had the flavor.
Nice.
It's amazing. And I said,
It is.
tell your parents to get the cake. And they all freaked out like, you're making a cake? I go, yeah, there is.
With all those Reese's cups
All those
on the
Reese's
top.
cups. Yeah. So go get the cake.
Woo.
Let's make that thing happen, folks. So go to tworoosters.com. Yeah, I was thinking, we covered Carolina and gave you examples. Has Duke really had a dramatic coaching search in the last 25 years?
Definitely not a public one.
No. You know, the best I can say about, like, for instance, Duke football, every single one of their hires from David Cutcliffe to today with Manny Diaz has been oh, okay, got it. But it didn't play out dramatically. There was no big public no. Maybe it says something about Duke football in terms of its national stature. I think the general attitude, especially when David Cutcliffe was hired, it was, okay, you hired an older guy to establish a culture. Wasn't Bobby Ross in the mix at some point too? Because remember, when they hired Cutcliffe, this was the dynamics that we talk about all the time. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Whereas we talk about Carolina and State and Duke being pushed in basketball and Carolina and State being pushed together in football more than anything else. Wake has pushed Duke in football. Because after going to the Wayback Machine in 2000, when they fired Jim Caldwell, who did they hire to replace him?
Jim Grobe.
Jim Grobe built that thing up, which of course culminated in winning the ACC. So Duke is looking at Wake Forest turning their football thing around and going, well, wait a minute. Why can't we do that? So that pushed Duke to get serious about football with facilities upgrades, getting serious with coaching staff, which of course brings you David Cutcliffe, which of course brings you an ACC championship appearance with David Cutcliffe in the Coastal. Could have been State, Joe. Could have been State, but it wasn't. So I just remember there was like some arguments of like, well, what direction you want to go in? You want to go with an older established guy, or do you want to go with a younger guy?
Duke's also kind of been the home of like you said, Bobby Ross, former NFL guy, former ACC guy, taking a sniff at that. And then that ended up being Ted Roof. Shouts to Bobby Ross's old agent, Craig Kelly.
Okay.
helped me break my first story because
Oh.
they were the ones who told me that Ted was going to get the job.
Gotcha.
That was 03,
Mhm.
04, 03, 04. And then the other one was Carl Durrell when they had hired Cutcliffe. Remember Carl Durrell was at UCLA,
Oh, yeah.
had a hot minute there,
Yeah.
younger guy, hipper, whatever. And they ended up taking Cutcliffe, who had some health issues, couldn't be was supposed to be the offense coordinator at Notre Dame,
Mhm.
was out of coaching there for a hot minute, and then ends up resurrecting his career.
And Mike Elko
at Duke.
gets hired, and it made a lot of sense given his background. Now,
Mike-
don't bring up,
Like Elko got hired because he was at Wake.
but don't bring up Dave Clawson. Don't bring
But
up
that's
Dave
why he
Clawson.
got the job. As you
But-
said, the push and pull.
There's a push and pull
Because
but-
Clawson had success.
and why Elko made a lot of sense was not only was he around at Wake Forest and understood what it took to build a program to get a particular type of school with a particular type of budget to get a particular type of player. He understood that from Wake Forest, but he also had some luxury stops along the way. Because remember, he
Notre
loved
Dame.
Notre Dame.
Everything's connected to Notre Dame.
And of course, he was at Texas A&M for a hot minute too with Jimbo. So that made sense. The Manny Diaz hire was surprising for me at the time because, again, luxury stops for Manny Diaz. I always thought it was curious that given his track record, given where he was, to take a job like Duke was an indication of maybe he's learned enough and understands, all right, I need to be at a place that I can kind of low-key build it rather than having the spotlight on me all the time, because that's been his previous stops. And also Duke is at a different place with money and what they're trying to do going forward. So the only time, and you reminded me of this, I guess the only real drama for a public Duke basketball was a public Duke coaching search would be the succession plan for Mike Krzyzewski going forward. It ends up with John Shire, but I can't remember if it was Tommy Amaker who publicly said this, or it was reported that Amaker was approached to be an assistant under K for a year or two and then take the job over.
No, it was I apologize for not remembering it correctly, and this wasn't public, obviously, because it came out after.
Came out after the fact, right?
Amaker, who has been at Harvard and has done a very good job at
Yes.
Harvard, obviously had some mixed results at Michigan and Seton Hall, to be kind. Had already been an assistant under Mike, and apparently Mike had the way the story has been told, Mike had approached Tommy Amaker about potentially replacing him, but he said part of the condition was you would have to come back to Durham and coach with me that final year.
Yes.
So that I would know and I can show you how everything works now. And then that way you're in place and everything would be seamless.
Mhm.
And the way I understand it, Amaker was like, absolutely not. I've been
I'm not
at Michigan.
doing
I've been at Seton Hall. I've been at Harvard. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm not
need to
doing
come
that.
work for you again. And then Shire obviously becomes the obvious replacement.
Now, State, on the other hand, a little different.
No, it ain't nothing easy.
No, no,
Ain't
no.
for soft people.
I mean, I think we pushed the State portion of this a little further into the podcast because we've discussed in the past the two biggest. We're going to do this Mount Rushmore, right? I would say that Carolina's search for Roy Williams, first, that 2000, where do we go? And then, of course, the Frank Beamer, where do we go? Those are on a Mount Rushmore.
Absolutely.
Okay. Those are classic examples. Duke has no spots on this Mount Rushmore because, as we just illustrated, it's been kind of relatively easy. Not easy, but just very typical. All right, here's your coaching search. Here's our guy. Let's go forward. State, on the other hand, there have been two that have been epic coaching searches. And obviously one of them is the Herb Sendek 6 or 7. Whatever it was. And then, of course, how you ended up with Mark Gottfried for basketball, which is interesting because football hasn't really had drama. I mean, there's probably its own story about how, Bill Cowher could have been the NC State.
Bill Cowher was a whole lot closer to taking that job when Chuck Amato was hired than most people
remember, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, but that happened outside the last 25 years. The Dave Doran hire was not exactly a crazy coaching
that
search.
was lessons learned from the Gottfried search and Jordan Bazant, his agent, being the one that Debbie was able to kind of dial in and say, okay.
And we've had a few months to marinate on this. The Will Wade hire was very seamless.
Yes.
Very seamless.
Well
no
done.
drama, no public,
Yeah.
I heard that Josh Pastner gave Debbie the Heisman. Never forget that quote from I think it was from Gary Parrish.
So let's not shortchange the Sydney search in
No,
06
no,
because
that was an epic
this is
one.
the all-time bonkers, batshit crazy coaching search. I would argue maybe definitely in ACC history, and only second to if the crazy Tennessee search of whatever year that was, where Dave was involved, 17 or 18. I guess it was 18. So Herb Sendek leaves for Arizona State by his own accord,
not according to Mike Patrick, RIP.
By his own accord, Herb Sendek, after 10 years, decides, you know what? I'm tired of this shit. I'm going to Arizona State. They offered me a job. That's decent money. I'm not going to put up with your fans anymore because, well, they don't like me anymore. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. We don't need to rehash all of that right now.
We don't.
That was April 1st. Lee Fowler is, at the time, the athletic director. He was a former assistant at Memphis. He was an assistant on the Memphis Final Four team back in 85. Okay. So Lee considered himself to be connected in the basketball community. So he decided he was going to handle this search. Okay. The very first coach that he wanted to hire, Lee with his Memphis background, the coach at the time at Memphis was John Calipari. Now, John Calipari was at Memphis because he had been at UMass, where he had made his bones, and then got in trouble with the NCAA. So he decided to coach the Nets. Well, then he failed out of the NBA and took a job. At the time, Memphis was in, whatever conference they were in. They were Conference USA, maybe. They were in a lower level.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was Conference USA.
They were like a disarray.
Yeah.
Okay. So the idea that NC State couldn't get John Calipari because he was at Memphis, because Memphis was running, he was recruiting at the John Calipari level. Let's not be mistaken. But the idea that like that an ACC school couldn't go get a guy from Memphis, that wasn't real.
Yeah.
So Fowler identifies Calipari, brings him in, and this search gave us two wonderful things. Number one, flight tracking software.
FlightAware.
NC State fans, Wolfpack fans are the first to give you. Now wait a second. Who flew where? They went where? Where did the plane go?
So they found
where did Wendell Murphy's plane go?
Right, they found Wendell Murphy's AirHog 1 flight number.
Yep.
And they started tracking it.
Yes. To the point now when they picked up Calipari, brought him to Raleigh. Now you remember this part even better than I do.
Oh, I remember this part because I was working at 850 The Buzz late night because I forgot what game I was running. So word was that he was in town.
Yeah, they had tracked him.
He was in town. They were giving him a tour of the facilities. At that time, it was a snazzy thing to have a webcam at what was the RBC Center at the time.
Because it was like, oh, people like to watch when they change over. Like, isn't that cool?
They would shut it down. They would turn the webcam off for like games.
Of course.
Because obviously you don't
broadcast reasons. Yeah.
Broadcast reasons, things like that, shows, concerts, etc. But they would just have it on to like let you see what was going on.
Hey, look.
So we're
setting up for a concert.
I forgot how I found out. I want to say it was the old State Fans Nation.
Yeah.
website.
Now this search in 06 was also like the height of message boards
and blogs.
Yes.
Blogs were a big thing. And at the time, State Fans Nation, before they lost their shit, they were very like, and I say that lovingly, but they lost their shit. They were very on top of it. This was very, again,
Jeff Brock, our guy.
Shout out to Brock.
Brock was all over this
Brock
shit.
was all over this. So I want to say I figured this out because State Fans Nation had said that they were going to be at, like they were touring the facility. That's the word they got. Of course, I go, oh, okay. You go to the website, and sure enough, you click on it. The way the urban legend works, because again, it's been so long. The way the urban
lights were out or something.
Right. The way the urban legend works, I don't remember this, but the way the urban legend goes is that you clicked on the thing, it was dark because the building was not in use. And then magically, the lights came on. And people saw it come on. And then I do remember this, is when I clicked on it, the lights were already on. You could see little grainy dots checking out the facility. And then that was that. The story goes, I know we've talked to Josh Passner about this. The story goes that it was late at night. There weren't a lot of places open. So they went and got shitty pizza or something like that. That's the way they said it. I forgot exactly where it was. I think it was Mellow Mushroom, they said. I couldn't remember if Mellow Mushroom had opened up there on Glenwood yet, and if it was even open at that time to go get pizza. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. It was always told to me that they hit Dunkin' Donuts that night.
Yes.
Because that's the only thing that was really open that night. So I don't know where the pizza story comes from.
Passner. There's no good pizza in Raleigh.
No
So we had to bring him
right.
pizza.
We brought him Oakland pizza box. We did a whole bit and all that kind of stuff. And he, to Pastner's credit, he remembers it and things like that. So, but then things get
similar. They came up with a deal.
They had a
potentially.
deal.
He saw the facility. Again, he was at Memphis. He wasn't at fucking Kentucky.
But the way the story goes, the reason why he didn't take the job was because once it started to dawn on him, okay, I'm going to take this job. Oh, shit. You got to remember where Carolina was at this time. You got to remember where Duke was at this time.
So Carolina in 06 would have won the national championship the year before.
Yeah.
Had Roy Williams and Tyler Hansbrough.
Yes.
As going into his sophomore year.
Yes.
Running hot. Duke, Mike Krzyzewski, head coach of the Olympic team.
Swoon, but they were going to, obviously, as we know, history dictates, they had their comeback. And Calipari looks at this and goes, fuck that.
I can hold off.
I'm not going to butt heads against these guys.
Well, he wouldn't have Derrick Rose for another till the next year. No, Derrick Rose was 08.
Yeah.
So he was recruiting at a level where he was getting these number 1, number 2 players in the country at Memphis.
So this is one of these white whales that I've always wanted to do in terms of a podcast series, right? You and I have done podcast series with Russell Wilson, which by the way, do you see the new Sports Illustrated photo shoot of him in New York with sunglasses?
Dude. Good stuff.
It's hilarious.
Classic.
So, we did the Russell Wilson. We did the Roy Williams. I've done my Skyhawks things. One of the ones that I've always wanted to do is this coaching search, to talk to the individuals associated with the coaching search. But the one thing that is abundantly important about this search and why it will always be remembered isn't necessarily for the guys who ended up saying no, is to what you just hinted at and what I just talked about with urban legends and technology. You got to remember where we were technology-wise during this time. And we were on this kind of precipice of all the ways we consume media changing. You mentioned message boards. To me, it was blogs. Blogs were the key thing. And then, of course, the conversations that took place in the comment sections of those blogs. Webcams, flight tracking, all that stuff was nascent at that point. So you think coaching searches...
And meanwhile, you had the national media.
Yes.
Basically motherfucking you the whole time. You ran Herb Sendek at a time. What do you expect? You've been to the tournament 5 years in a row. You've never won the ACC. You've never so much as gotten past the Sweet 16. But you should like the crap sandwich that Herb Sendek is feeding you on an annual basis.
Because what do you expect?
Shame on you.
What do you expect to do? Do you really think you're going to be better than Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski? No, it was a lot of know your role.
Yes.
A lot of know your
lane.
role.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to.
Meanwhile, Carolina ran Matt Doherty out after 3 years.
I know.
And 2 winning seasons, one where he's the ACC coach of the year. Meanwhile, Carl Torbush had 2 winning seasons, run out of Carolina football after 3 years, but stays the batshit crazy fan base. Got it.
Standard is the standard.
I got it.
So after Calipari says nah,
then there's speaking of white whales, then Rick Barnes. And Rick Barnes, Ricky from Hickory, he was the coach who stood up to Dean Smith when he was at Clemson.
Yes.
Rick Barnes was at Texas. In retrospect,
was he ever really going to leave Texas? No.
It was A, not leaving Texas for leaving Texas, and B, again, the tough neighborhood, man. In 06, that was not a myth.
No.
That was a real fucking thing.
No.
Okay? Now that gets down to the kind of the crazy portion, if you will. Because at the time, Steve Lavin had been run out of UCLA. He had been working at ESPN, young, good-looking guy,
dude,
had done well at UCLA, well enough anyway. Then, some of these old recruiting rules, yada, yada, yada. But they had offered Steve Lavin the job, turns him down. And I'm like, Steve Lavin, damn, man, you can't get Steve Lavin. He turns him down. The next one that Lee Fowler had correctly identified now was John Beilein.
Yes.
And now people remember John Beilein, the professor. He was at Michigan. He went to
great
Cleveland
coach.
Cavaliers. Unbelievable X&O coach.
Great coach.
At the time, he was at West Virginia. And at the time, while we did not know that much about his personality, right? One of the problems that Herb Sendek had with the fan base was his personality. He was an erudite. He was, he was into the Buddhism there at the end and his Zen, and he was chopping wood and he was living in his day tight compartments. And the games against Carolina were 1/16 of the ACC schedule, no more, no less, just 1/16 of the schedule. And so John Beilein, while not like a twin of Herb Sendek, was cut from the same cloth. he even ran elements of the Princeton offense at West Virginia. And you're like, is this guy really going to be like Herb? Now, Fowler actually didn't mind Herb in any of the ways, right?
Not.
So he was like, no, this guy's like a really, really good basketball coach. He can come, he can win, he can be really good for us, particularly with the players that had been left behind. Like, wow, this would be a great fit for systems wise. Won't be that big of a change. Beeline then had a buyout with West Virginia that Wendell Murphy, we mentioned his plane, was like, wait a second, I got to not only pay for this guy, but then I'm going to have to pay his buyout. And it was like, are we sure this is the guy that we want? No. And then this then becomes the famous, hey, Wendell, whose brother Pete was fraternity brothers with Colton Tudor at ECU, calls Tudor, hey, man, I'm not sure about this. Can you write a story that we're interested in Phil Ford or that we're going to talk to Phil Ford?
You're going to talk to Will Ford. So, yeah. And
Tudor writes this story.
I remember vividly. I remember the day Tudor's column dropped about Phil Ford at NC State.
Yeah. And how they had injury.
Dude, that was a godsend for sports talk radio, man. Because you can imagine
Phil Ford now, who had been passed over twice by Carolina.
The DUI stuff.
Now is magically good enough for NC State.
And he's a Carolina guy.
Not a Carolina guy, the
Carolina guy, you know? And the phone did not stop ringing.
Yeah,
the phone just did not stop ringing.
That was a day.
That was a perfect sports talk radio topic.
I think Beeline would have been the right answer here.
Beeline would have been the right answer.
And I think obviously what we know, he took Michigan to the title game twice. He had a really great run at Michigan, I think.
But this is also ties to a constant through line when it comes to coaching searches. Typically, your next coach is going to be the opposite of the guy that you just had. So Chuck Amato begets Tom O'Brien.
Yes.
Right? Dave Doran was sold a little bit differently than Tom O'Brien with some of the antics that he was doing at Northern Illinois and all that kind of stuff. And to a certain extent, Tom O'Brien was never going to be seen at the bell tower with a red Solo cup and a cigar. You know what I'm saying? So there's some, Tom O'Brien would never look directly into the CW camera and tell Steve Smith to shut the fuck up, right? Like that would never happen. So you go in those opposite directions, and obviously this is the case with basketball, and we see this. We've seen this time and again. You can't have Herb 2.0, so you're going for somebody else now.
So this search, remember, Herb leaves on April 1st.
Yes,
it's now May 5th,
and never forget
May 5th.
Never forget, State fans at this point are rabid. They're mad. It's getting dragged out. Lee Fowler's trying to play the sympathy card at this point.
Did he go on your show and said that he had lost 30 pounds?
He lost
or something?
30 pounds. State fans don't want to hear that shit.
He's been hiding up at the lake.
He's in the lake house working the phones. I remember the Photoshops at that time. Again, another thing that illustrates where we were. Oh, you think AI makes it easy? There were dudes making Photoshops of a shirtless Lee Fowler on the phone from his lake house. Like, Lee Fowler hard at work, working the phones, right? So that doesn't work. We got Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News coming on our show. You got to call Mick Cronin. Of course, we're like, Mick freaking Cronin.
Yeah, I'm talking about someone who looks just like Herb Sendek.
And that's what we said. I'm like, Mike, there's no effing way that you can accept a smaller, angrier version of Herb Sendek. Okay, there's just no way you can do that. Of course, we come to find out that Mick Cronin is a hell of a coach, man. And Mick Cronin
he'll come up soon.
And Mick Cronin would fight. Okay,
he'll come up soon.
He was not like Herb in that he will fight.
Different personality.
Different personality. But then you come to find out that Mick was going through some.
No.
That was different search.
Don't step on the next search.
Bad. I'm getting my searches confused with Mick Cronin. So we end up with, now here's the part that I'm having a hard time remembering. It gets to the point where Lee's got to go to the family.
Correct.
Okay.
And they had three choices.
Okay. So you had
Nate McMillan, a successful NBA coach,
but he's not leaving the NBA.
No, he had it running hot a little bit. I think he was still in Seattle at the time.
Derek Wittenberg was at Fordham?
Wagner, maybe. But he was not. I don't think Witt was really considered.
And also,
to be honest,
with Witten, but the other thing about Wittenberg, if I remember correctly, again, this could be a Mandela effect. But part of the issue with Wittenberg was that we were still kind of dealing with some friction over the Valvano years and how things had kind of been playing out.
I think at that point, Witt had been an assistant for Bobby Cremins.
Yeah.
He had done fairly well at Wagner, but I think it was more along the lines of, I don't know if that will work.
Okay. So we end up with
Then
Cindy
Vinny Del
Lowe.
Negro was the other one,
I was gonna
also a
say.
head coach.
Yeah.
And it was like, can't get him, can't get Vinny, can't get Nate. Well, let's get the other NBA guy.
The assistant.
At the time, it says, remember, Sid had been Minnesota here with the Grizzlies. He had one of the worst records in the NBA. He was an assistant at the time. Detroit actually was running hot.
Mm-hmm.
He had been with Detroit. And on May 5th, they're like, okay,
Got it.
we got our guy.
Slight problem.
Except
Slight problem.
he had never graduated
Never graduated.
from NC State.
Which was the dumbest shit.
So he had to take 9 hours, I think,
Yeah, something
at
like that.
St. Paul's
Reminds me of
College in Virginia.
Reminds me of what I had to do to walk for my graduation. I was 2 credit hours short. They're like, well, what do I need to take? Well, you take whatever you want. So I took a debate class and a fitness walking class
There we go.
in the summer.
To literally walk.
Literally walk.
Yeah.
That's what I did to walk. So,
So on May 6th,
He
they
gets hired.
finally have a press conference at the Paul Durr track where they bring home the conquering hero from the 83 championship.
you
team.
walk over to Reynolds where there's a press conference. And then I remember, and Taylor Zarzer can back me up on this. Taylor Zarzer was doing radio at the time on 1490, 1090. And we're sitting next to each other. And I look at him and I said, dude, we're going to be right back here in 5 years. And he goes, really? I go, yeah, man. Like, we're going to be back here in 5 years. Sure enough.
Sure enough, in 2011, like what do you like to say? History rhymes.
History rhymes.
Oh boy. Oh boy. You want to talk about the second most batshit crazy coaching search of all time. Now you add in the personality
Of Debbie.
of Debbie Yao.
Yeah. And, how she left things with Gary.
Gary Williams at Maryland. There was a lot of friction there.
Friction
often.
there. And coaches talk.
Coaches talk a lot.
Yes.
A
If you,
lot.
I wish it's hard to do. Going to a Final Four is not easy, as you discovered, outside of work. If you get to go for work, like I've been lucky enough to be able to do for a long time. I wish people would be able to go to the coach's hotel or to the NABC convention, and you will see how they all talk. They all know each other. They all gossip. So let's put Gary, an already red-ass personality, with Debbie and her personality. They didn't exactly see eye to eye. So Gary, people were like, hey, what was it like to work with Debbie? That kind of poisons the well when we're talking about a coaching search.
So we have one of the great batshit crazy coaching searches of all time.
That ends with Debbie at the microphone saying sabotage. Poor Mark.
So Sean
Actually,
Miller,
no, poor Mark.
Sean Miller was her first choice. He was
Yeah.
at Arizona.
Yeah.
And the mythology goes, according to David Glenn, that Sean Miller would have taken the job in 06, which I to this day argue he never would have followed Herb
I'm with you.
after a poisonous situation. Herb, his friend, and he was a former assistant with Herb.
I'm with you on that.
So Sean Miller with Arizona, and at that time they'd actually just knocked off Duke in the NCAA tournament. It was a big upset win. And it was like they beat the Kyrie Irving team. And I'm like, Sean's not coming. He didn't even talk to her.
Mhm.
Now, their dad, John, did say, hey, if you like this sound, I've got just the coach for you in Archie Miller. Put a pin in that for right now. So after Sean was like a non-starter there, Mark Turgeon was at Texas A&M.
Now, what was Mark's problem?
So he was at Texas A&M, which was at the time a very difficult place to win a basketball game.
And he was good.
And he did well there, i.e. got him to the tournament, was a assistant though for Roy Williams. And when Debbie talked to Mark Turgeon, he was slightly reverential in the way that he had talked about Roy,
Yeah.
which with Debbie
You can't do that.
is a non-starter.
Debbie was the one that greenlit things like, we're going to put UNCCH on
Yes.
parking passes and tickets.
Yes.
And, the parking pass for the UNC game is pink.
Pink.
All that kind of stuff.
Slightly held a few grudges or two.
Yes.
Now, the apple of her eye becomes not a young Archie Miller, but a young Shaka Smart.
Mm-hmm.
This was the first or second year of the first four.
Mm-hmm.
VCU was one of the last teams in the field. They end up at the first four. Well, you're thinking, surely VCU will go to Dayton. They'll lose.
Wrap it up.
She could just hire Shaka Smart from VCU, this young and up-and-comer who's down at Florida. And, this great, he's a go-getter. He can recruit, do all these great things, all these things that Debbie loves. VCU kept winning.
Ends up in the Final Four.
To the point where they get to the Final Four. And in the interim is when we get the sabotage. Where he's talked out of going to NC State for however validity you want to believe on that one. Dave tells me, I don't know how close it was. Like, we all kind of told him you could probably do better.
So, well, after he gets to the Final Four, I'm sure he could.
Absolutely.
So let's not act like that thing wasn't still being courted at that point, because where was the Final Four that year? It was somewhere. Was it
Houston?
Was it Houston? Because I remember having to be on a bus to get to where we were. So I want to say that was Houston. Because it was VCU, Butler.
Butler was the final. It was Houston. Look at me.
Okay, thank you. Shout out to Papa Do's, because that was like the closest restaurant to the crap hotel that they had put us in for the Final Four. We had to get on a bus to get to the Dome, to get to NRG Stadium or whatever it is now. And Debbie was on said bus. Me and Adam look at Debbie. Debbie looks at us. She's like, and it was basically, not to reveal too much from that conversation, but essentially it was you know why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
So that courtship was going all the way. So
which again, everyone talks, everyone knows.
Yes.
So while she's kind of waiting for Godot,
yeah,
you have Mick Cronin, Greg Marshall, and Josh Pastner in order.
Yes.
In a 24-hour span, basically say, no, I turned down NC State. I'm staying at Memphis. Mick Cronin at Cincinnati. Fuck NC State. Yeah. I'm staying at Cincinnati.
Wasn't Frank Martin in that mix too?
We'll get to that. Okay. Greg Marshall at Wichita.
Yeah, he was never leaving.
Famously wanted a bunch of money. Yeah. And Debbie, Debbie was like, we don't have that much money. And so they all publicly come out like in this 24-hour span, to the point where Debbie has to send an email to the Wolfpack Club. And it was basically like, this isn't going the way I wanted it to go, but just be a little bit patient. It was like a little bit of a panicky email. I talked to her yesterday.
She loved an email though.
She did. Because she was over communicative.
She was.
So
that's what we love about
She was
Debbie.
trying to communicate.
Yeah.
This is where I step in because I had someone call me. I think we all know at this point who that person was, but we'll protect his identity for a second. And he says, I don't know if you're talking to Debbie, but if you are, will you please let her know that Frank Martin will take the NC State job? Frank Martin, I believe at the time, was at Kansas State.
I think you're right. He wasn't at South Carolina yet.
No, not yet. And I said, wow, Frank Martin, really? Frank Martin's a hell of a coach.
Cuban legend.
Frank Martin is very, very similar in personality to Gary Williams.
Uh-huh. He's a red ass.
So after the email comes out, I finally get a hold of Debbie because she had not been talking to me.
Yeah.
I finally get a hold of her and I'm like, hey, so just so you know, Frank Martin is interested in the job, and as I've been told, he will take the job if you offer it to him. She's like, well, I don't know. And then I said, well, if you like Sean so much, why don't you go back to Archie? Why don't you just give Archie the job? Well, at the time, I believe it was at Ohio State as an assistant.
Yeah, he was an assistant under I can't remember.
Thad Mata. I believe either that or he had been with his brother at Arizona. It was one of the two.
One of them. Yeah.
Okay. I said, if you really love Sean that much, Archie is going to be a decent facsimile, right?
Archie was always viewed as a guy that could come back and take that state job. Always.
And she was like, we just had a former point guard who was an assistant. Like, I think we can try something else. She's like, I don't disagree, but we need to give him a little bit more time to see what he turns out to be. I said, okay. I said, you don't want Archie. You don't want Frank. I said, what are you going to do? She goes, I've got one more person. And I think he's going to take the job. I said, better than Frank Martin? Better than Frank Martin. The next day, Mark Gottfried is introduced as the next basketball coach at NC State. That was April 5th.
Yeah.
So it was another one of those. It was about a month. That search took about a month.
Mark Gottfried wasn't all bad.
No. First 4 years made the tournament, right?
I mean, gave
two of them went to the Sweet 16.
Gave State a personality. I'm sure if the landscape of college athletics was like it was today, maybe Mark Gottfried, maybe. You know what? I feel like maybe if when we do the YouTube membership channel, that might just be a membership channel one.
Okay.
Or we just start up our own OnlyFans for that. Big thanks to Miller Lending. Check them out online. MillerLending.com/the OG.
Better than Frank Martin?
Better. 919-447-3377. Tell them we sent you. Go to that landing page. Tell them we sent you. You take that thing to close, you're going to get a Raleigh Wine Shop gift basket. It's fantastic stuff. Please consume that in your house. Okay?
Please, responsibly.
You can eat some of the things in that gift basket on the road, but please drink responsibly.
Look at you. Progress.
Yeah, I know. So call Miller Lending today. There's any number of reasons to refinance. There's always talk of the rates changing in the next 6 months. Maybe they'll lower. You're going to hold. It's like a scene from, what was the Mel Gibson movie with where he was the Scottish dude?
Yeah.
Or
Dresses up.
Or Gladiator. It's cold,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. You don't have to do that with Miller Lending and interest rates.
Jeez Louise.
I know. I can't remember it now off the top of my head. So with Miller Lending, you can
Braveheart.
Thank you, Braveheart. You can act now and not pay closing costs so that in the next 6 months, if the rates come down, you can refinance again and not sweat it. Otherwise, you're going to look like Mel Gibson in Braveheart at the end where they quarter him in an area that's not fun.
Whoa.
So don't do that because that is what paying closing costs is like. You're going to sit there and be in pain. You don't want to do that.
No.
Because you're going to have to wait 8 years.
No
to break
pain,
even.
save money.
Save money every single time. Now, speaking of homes, things have kind of plateaued in the market.
Okay.
This causes people to also hold. Don't. If there is a house that you're interested in right now and you're looking at things like interest rates and things like that, combine powers. All right. Use Hometown Realty to identify and get the house that you've been looking for. And then with Miller Lending, you finance it so that if the rates do come down, you're not in this panic rush to go buy a house now. You got the house you wanted and you can refinance. But it all starts with our friends at Hometown Realty. Check them out online at myhtr.com. You bought the house. It needs some things that need to be cleaned up, upgraded. Blooming blinds. That's an instant upgrade. Instant. Call them today at 919-980-9815. Chris and the crew are going to do a great job fixing blinds in your house. You're looking for actual true blackout curtains, shades, automation. They can do that for you as well. Any number of things that they can do in your house, but it all starts with a call, 919-980-9815, or just go to bloominblinds.com. All right, so you bought a house, you financed it. I gotta insure it. What do I do? Matt Davis, State Farm. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Go for the EGOT here. Bought your house with my Hometown Realty. You financed it with Miller Lending. You're doing up the blinds and the shades with Bloomin' Blinds, and now you got to insure it. EGOT time. InsureGarner.com. Matt Davis. Give him a call directly at 919-779-8277. Find all the crazy ways that you can save money with our friends at State Farm. We have not done lightning round in a hot minute. But while I was gone, you kept texting me.
Okay. Let's see what winners we have here.
What is Joe texting me? Now, mind you, when I was out in parts of Montana and Canada with 1 bar and 3G, I wasn't getting these. But I just kind of accrued them, piled them up. So let's see what we got here. You sent me one from NC State basketball. The reckoning is here.
Yeah.
Okay. What do we got here?
We call it a reckoning.
Ooh.
Others may say it's just a season,
but we're making a statement. A few are calling it a warning.
But you've already been warned.
We don't need to prime the pump.
But man, are we greasing the wheels.
We aren't chasing respect.
We're commanding it.
Let everyone in the way know the pack is back.
And we're bringing the reckoning with us.
Red reckoning. Very Stranger Things-esque. I like it. Good.
Rising defiantly.
History rhymes, Joe. History rhymes.
Leaning in.
I got to get this. It's from UNC Humor. Hey, Go Hills, you're going to have to explain how these Cutter and Buck polos are being sent out. Maybe this is the reckoning.
See?
The reckoning.
You've already been warned.
You've already been warned. Look what's happened to you, Carolina. Here's a UNC interlocking NC in red. Did they get confused with South Carolina? Is that what happened here? That's what this has to be.
That's good stuff.
That's what this has to be. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. All right, let's see what else you sent me in your social media dump. What do we got here? King's Court. 3 hot kings on Bravo.
Hey, man, the wolf blood. It's the year of the wolf blood.
Goal here is to find ultimately love.
I want somebody that wants to get to know me.
I don't want anyone to
Whoa.
I love that you don't watch these before.
Whoa, hold up. Is that Carlos Boozer? Is that Boozer?
That is the wolf blood. The father of the wolf blood, who's ex-wife, obviously, is the mother of the twins.
How is this not?
The ex-wife went to state.
Okay,
and of course, Carlos is the Duke legend.
How is this not on the ACC network? Come on.
Should be.
Should be on the ACC network. Jeez, missed opportunity. Jeremy, come on, man. You get that Carlos Boozer doing like it's an ABC property, The Bachelor. Come on.
There we go.
Do the programming for you guys. Jeez.
Wolf blood.
All right, what do we got here? We have one from the Empty Netters. Yes, my favorite hockey podcast where they just throw shit at the wall. What do we got? Oh, is this Natchez? I love the retroactive Natchez talk.
Isn't happy with the situation in Colorado and would be interested in moving. Can you believe the narrative turnaround that whole fucking thing has become? Look at how good Carolina looks right now. Stankoven extended, Ehlers now in there. They did such good work. They've got all those picks back for the Rantanen trade. Like, they look like fucking geniuses.
I thought they were supposed to shut the franchise down, Joe.
These were the guys who said that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought they were supposed to shut it
they're
down.
Walking it back, so let's see.
When so many people were shitting on them, and now Natchez and Colorado,
including you,
Colorado, who looked so good in the season, is like, I'm actually not happy here. Like, if that's actually
who could have predicted that Natchez would not be happy?
You mean a guy going into the last year of his contract really, 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 really wants to get the free agency?
No.
I figured you would enjoy that one.
But we don't know what we're talking about.
I figured you would enjoy that one.
Got it. All right. Next up in your social media dump, what do we got here? We got Tony. People are calling him the Romo of marriage proposals. No.
You know how this ends, right?
All right. For people who are not watching on YouTube, there's a guy that looks like he's going to propose to his girlfriend on a waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
If you've seen the movie Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, as we're calling back old movies, this looks like the waterfall where Kevin Costner is like play fighting and all that kind of stuff. This looks very similar. So, are they going to put this guy in combination with Romo and the famous field goal hold? Okay. Hold on, let me get some sound here.
Field goal attempt. Oh, it is fumbled by Romo, and then Romo's going to run to the end zone, and he's going to get tackled. Romo holds. 19-yard field goal attempt. Oh, it is fumbled by Romo, and then Romo's going to run to the end zone, and he's going to get tackled.
We didn't get to see the landing.
Man, poor guy.
And luckily it was a waterfall, not a cliff.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kelly's reading. So when we go to these national parks, Kelly will always get the book Death in ... So she's got like Death in Yellowstone, Death in Yosemite, Death in the Grand Canyon, and of course there's Death in Glacier. A lot of them are related to falling off a cliff when you're trying to get that photo, man. A lot of them are related to that. Let's see what else we got here. Rough night. Oh, I saw this. I actually saw this in my feed. Rough night for Mr. Met at a Lumineers concert. I can't deal with Lumineers.
Okay, so he throws him like a tambourine. He drops it.
All right, he's trying to do the tambourine thing.
He's got the giant Met head on.
Oh, he eats it. Poor Mr. Met.
Poor Mr. Met.
I wonder if that shows up at the ESPYs tonight. All right. Be curious to see how Shane Gillis does tonight with that. Oh, we got golf content. What do we got here? Scotty, we got Scheffler.
Serious. This one's actually serious.
All right, Scotty just gives one of the best and deepest press conference answers ever heard.
Funny, I think
this is 5 minutes.
No, you don't have to listen to all of it, but
but
you'll like some of it.
You know, I think I said something after the Byron this year about like, it feels like you work your whole life to celebrate winning a tournament for like a few minutes. It only lasts a few minutes, that kind of euphoric feeling. And I like to win the Byron Nelson Championship at home. I literally worked my entire life to become good at golf, to have an opportunity to win that tournament. And you win it, you celebrate, get to hug my family, my sister's there. It's such an amazing moment. And then it's like, okay, now what are we going to eat for dinner? You know, life goes on. Is it great to be able to win tournaments and to accomplish the things I have in the game of golf? Yeah. I mean, it brings tears to my eyes just to think about, because it's literally worked my entire life to become good at this sport, and to have that kind of sense of accomplishment, I think is a pretty cool feeling. You know, to get to live out your dreams is very special. But at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not out here to inspire the next generation of golfers. I'm not here to inspire somebody else to be the best player in the world, because what's the point? You know, this is not a fulfilling life. It's fulfilling from the sense of accomplishment, but it's not fulfilling from a sense of like the deepest, you know, places of your heart.
Wow, that was deep.
He continues.
He's right though.
He's basically like, I work all this work and do all this stuff, and he's like, and then like the next second, I'm like, well, shit. Well, I won here, and I gotta go win here.
Yeah. It's interesting that you have to be serious for a moment here. We go from guys falling off waterfalls and proposals to
the meaning of life.
To the meaning of life. He's right though. He's right. And, you know, these are things that are true of major athletes that go on and win, and they hit the highest peak, they accomplish the thing they've always tried to do, and then they realize, well, now what? I got to do it again, or whatever it is, or it did not fulfill the thing you thought it would, which is even more depressing, because you realize you've wasted a lot of time. I thought, all right, I've achieved this thing, everything is complete. No, actually, it's a little empty after a while. So that's real. That's real. He's not the first one to talk about that. I'm glad people talk about this. You have to find fulfillment in other ways.
That'll be your youth hockey team next year. You're going to win. And you're going to be like, well, I mean, this is great, but, you know.
No, it's all the friends you made along the way. It's all the brewery shirts I picked up along the way in various towns.
I think Ken got you a very special shirt from his vacation.
I'm excited.
Like, no, you're not. I said, don't worry. He won't wear it. He'll lose it in the fucking.
No. If it's from Ken, I'll wear it. Let's see. Big Poppy snaps on Rafi Devers.
This one, Rafael Devers one might require your dad. I have a very specific.
Puede venir a decir que te faltan el respeto a ti aquí.
Okay, it's in Spanish. At least they've translated it.
Yeah.
All right. So you can't come and say they disrespected you here.
Cuando el respeto te lo faltaste tú mismo. El orgullo de un pelotero.
Okay, a ball player's pride.
Y más bajo un contrato como el que él tiene. Es que cuando llegue entrenamiento.
Showing up to spring training.
Llegar en una forma física que cuando lo vean digan, wow, pero fulano en el off-season se puso palo de él. No llega fuera de forma, mi gente, eso no corre en pelota. Entonces, tú fuiste de los tercera base el año anterior.
You went from the worst third baseman on defense last year.
Que jugó de la peor defensa, y tú vas a llegar a entrenamiento fuera de forma. Te traen un tercera base, Gold Glove, por el déficit que tú tuviste el año anterior, y tú dices que te están faltando respeto. No.
Yeah, so basically, so what are you asking? So basically what Big Poppy's doing here is basically calling out Devers after, because there was a big trade earlier in the year. We didn't talk about this, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that Boston was just not happy with the condition that he was in. So they said, get the fuck out of here.
I enjoyed this specifically because it's not only someone of Poppy's gravitas calling him out, but he's doing it in a very specific way that obviously in his English is fine.
English is perfectly fine.
But he's doing it in a way.
It's different in Spanish though.
Well, no, he's also doing it in a way where you're like, he is free flowing.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to stop and process it. He's just being,
he's letting it cook.
There's a constructive criticism here. And I think part of Major League Baseball's problem in this country is its best players don't speak English.
Oh, we saw this in the home run derby.
They're also not analyzed in a way that, because they can't offer their input, they don't feel like they can offer their input. Same thing with Ohtani, right? You have these best players, none of them really speak. That's not their first language. Let's put, instead of saying they don't speak the language, I'll say it's not their first language. I always say, look, if I went and played somewhere and had to speak a different language, like I'd be up shit's creek too. And I think this is part of, like, not only is baseball a promotional sport, but the way that it gets analyzed is very superficial because of the language barrier.
There's layers to it, right? To your point about Ortiz and talking and flowing, this happens with my parents all the time. In that, even to this day, even even though they're clearly both fluent in both languages and have been for a very, very long time, I can tell when my dad is letting it rip because he's talking in Spanish, because it's an easier flow. You don't have to think about how you're going to put it, what right word to use, and things like that. And so there's layers to baseball's language barrier issues. The first one is that players are reluctant to speak in Spanish or speak in English because they know they could screw it up, and people will not take the time to go, oh, this is his second language. It's impressive that he even is capable of doing this. Rather than being impressed by it, they're like, learn the damn language. Like, no, they have. You go learn another language at this age and try to see how easy it is, right? And that, so they couch themselves and the personality goes away, which is why I thought it was very, very good of ESPN to have a bilingual sideline reporter for the Home Run Derby that was able to ask questions in Spanish and allowing the player to answer in Spanish. And then that bilingual reporter being able to translate back for you, because you're going to get much more personality because they don't have to think. They can just talk the way they want to talk. And, we do this locally. We've seen this with Sebastian Aho or Andrei Svechnikov. Go look at Sebastian Aho when he first got here to where he is today and how much more comfortable he is in being himself because he's much more comfortable with the language. And even to this day, he still kind of struggles here and there. But I just wish in those situations, people will be a little bit more empathetic to the fact that it's really hard to learn another language. One thing that I'm going to present to you, because I'm always fascinated by your algorithm versus my algorithm.
Okay.
Well, I was gone and I was killing time in an airport terminal waiting. I started getting fed Indonesian aura farming boat kids. Are you familiar with this?
No.
I will give you the basic example of what. So,
oh, yes, I have seen
it uses Melly Mike's Young, Black, and Rich, typically is the song that is being used. And it's this historic boat race that takes place at certain times in Indonesia. And it's like an 11-year-old kid who went viral because he's doing this dance at the front of the boat. So much so that Caleb tried to do this on a 10 horsepower little boat in the middle of Lake Minnewanka. And I'm like, buddy, no. Okay. I don't need to get a ticket out here. So they explain this. I found a YouTube channel that explains what's going on here.
The Indonesian boat racers taking off online for their ability to just look damn cool is exactly what makes the internet so incredible. Sometimes you're blessed with visuals you might never encounter, and the kids riding the front of these giant boats and dancing is one of the best. It comes from a cultural boat race called Paku Jala, with records of it dating back to at least the 1600s, as it sees 50 to 60 people packed into elongated canoes and a small person, most often a child, standing on the front as a helmsman. The kids will often do a little dance in order to lead the boats as they race one another, and it is this dancing that has caught the eye of the internet.
I will admit that I have watched. Anytime it shows up on my feed, I stop. So the algorithm's like, oh, you want more Indonesian boat races? I'm going to give you more Indonesian boat races. All of them. And I've been seeing people pick up on it. Now, you're probably like, why are you bringing this up, Ovies? We're very close to the start of the football season. I am curious because you know how the internet works now. Things go by, like trends last a week.
Right.
One day you're buying Labubus on eBay and Dubai chocolate, and then the next week they're like, "Oh, those are trash." Right? We got to move on to the next thing. Next one week it's Stanley mugs that everybody must have, and then after that, like, no, Stanley mugs are now collecting dust on the shelf with all the other things that you bought back in the day, right? I am curious if the Indonesian aura farming kid dance will make it to football season. If we will see touchdown celebrations.
Oh.
Or if like somebody's taking it to the house and they got to clear 20 yards on the next defender if they're going to start doing with the football, they'll start doing the thing as they go into the end zone. I'm curious if we will get that. I am hopeful we will get to that point. Big thanks to Happy and Hale. Check them out in North Hills. They've got a location out in North Raleigh as well, and of course Durham.
Let's take a break. Let's take a hockey break. Brought to you by Happy and Hale.
They've got an app. Use that app. It makes it super, super easy. In fact, I'm actually going to use the app on my way home to get a quick pick-me-up before getting into some other things as I'm running around doing the Hockey Dad life thing today. So download the app, use that promo code OG25 to get yourself a smoothie, a bowl, whatever you need to grab and go.
We still have the hot honey chicken too.
Ooh.
I went last week.
Might be my lunch for today. Big thanks to Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. You can check them out online at bugsbite.com. We are in the just doldrums of the summer. It's humid. It's gross. You got bugs trying to get in your house. You got ants. You got mosquitoes from all the rain that have developed. Standing water is a huge issue for mosquito development. So get rid of the water. And of course, contact our friends at Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. In fact, when Mosquito Authority comes over to my house, they will get rid of standing water. They'll see, oh, look at this guy. He hasn't dumped out this bucket that's been sitting in the backyard. Dump that thing out.
Yeah.
Spray it. It's all good. That's customer service. That's our friends at bugsbite.com. And of course, Roback. Check them out online, roback.com, RHOBACK. OG20 is the promo code. They got polos, but let me just, having been on a trip, the pants come in clutch, super comfortable, a lot of mobility. Did not find myself constricted while I was trying to get up some scrambling rock action here. The hoodie came in handy as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like super cold. It was just kind of crisp out and you need something to warm you up a little bit. Hoodie came in clutch. And they got great stuff at Roback. So use that promo code if you haven't yet. OG20. Or if you have. I'm not saying that it's super easy to just use another email, but it actually is pretty easy to just use another email. All right, let's get out of here on some Hey Joe. Let's go to our YouTube comment section, shall we? We've got Dave. Top-notch job on the Two Roosters flavor, guys. Out of town the first week of July, made sure to hit the Lake Boone Shopping Center. It was the Lake Boone location to try it out. Like Doug Wharf, I paired it with Mike and Shane's flavor. It did not disappoint at all. From PD, apparently Hayes has a lot of wealthy friends because about half of the weddings I've been to in North Carolina did not serve liquor. From John, all of the weddings that I've been to in North Carolina have been dry weddings. They served punch. I've never been to a wedding where they served alcohol. You get a cake square, some peanuts, and some punch. Well, the punch is there for a reason. Okay? The punch is there to be liquored up. From Corey, I've had booze at weddings around here. The big reason for the dry weddings I've attended have been mostly the bride's parents, are Southern Baptists. Yes. So I think this is where we come into the world of, you know how there's people claim there's a weather dome around Raleigh, the ITB weather dome.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think with Hayes, there's a little bit of an ITB reality distortion field. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to know which weddings he's got. He's never been to a dry wedding?
I thought I was taking crazy pills during that segment.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the people have spoken.
The people have spoken. Yes. Yes. Also from Corey, a crummy team as the Tampa Bay Rays just sells for nearly $2 billion. How much is a franchise fee going to be in 4 to 5 years? How much money are we talking and how much money is the cost to the fans? This is in relation to the conversation we had with Brian Fork yesterday or from Monday night at MLB Raleigh's home run derby watch party at the local. And we've gotten a lot of response to yesterday's conversation about Major League Baseball. And I think the one thing you kind of have to keep in mind is that while Dundon has a lot of money, you're going to need an ownership group at this point. Whereas with the Carolina Hurricanes and the way things have been going with the market, you can buy a hockey team as a single person.
Right.
Baseball, football, that's why football's starting to dance with private equity because you've gotten to a point with the valuations that actual humans with money cannot singularly afford it anymore. So that's why you have to put together these ownership groups or you have to highly leverage them in order to get it. So with Dundon, I would imagine it's something we didn't get into with Fork because we're so far away from this actually happening that I would imagine an ownership group has to come together. As far as what this means for the public, it wasn't the time or the place. This is a different conversation if this ever really comes to fruition. But when Fork talked about a publicly financed stadium, I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. All the tropes about publicly financed stadiums, we know better. We're much better educated about what actually gets back to taxpayers and economic development and things like that. I'm not all that interested in handouts for guys with a lot of money to go build these things that ultimately are financially beneficial to them more so than it is for the counties and things like that. So we've seen this time and again, we've seen cities straight up say, I mean, look at Oakland, right? Look at how the Chargers ended up in LA. City is straight up going, no, we know what you make. We know what kind of money you have. And this is something that will play out with David Tepper in Charlotte too, going forward with the future of their stadium and things like that. I mean, heck, you saw what happened in Rock Hill. So but again, that's so far off that I'm not all that interested in getting into that debate right now. But I do think there'll be a time and place for it in the future.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
Thanks to our friends at Nature's Relief. I got to drop by Nature's Relief and re-up on my
Ooh.
sleep gummies. Are we going to be at Nature's Relief soon?
August.
Okay. Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Get you on some sippers.
Well, we know how that ends.
Let's go to I believe this is a 469 area code.
Hey guys, Mikey and DF Dub listening on the drive down to work today. Love the top 10 triangle losses. Fantastic off-season protocol. I think you just about covered all my Carolina hits that I think I have on there. Except I'm not sure that you guys covered the 2011 regional final loss to Kentucky, where John Henson picked up the tickiest, tackiest alleged fourth foul 45 feet from the basket in the first minute of the second half. Carolina rallied. I think Barnes tied the game with about 2 minutes left, and Kentucky hit a couple of threes down the stretch. It wasn't so much the loss, but what was waiting in the Final Four. Yeah, Kemba Walker was there, but that was not a great UConn team. And VCU and Butler on the other side of the bracket. We can talk all day about whether Carolina could beat Kentucky in 2012, but Carolina absolutely could have beaten everybody waiting for them in Houston in the Final Four in 2011. That's the one. Still the thorn in my ass when I think back on what could have been. I'm also not sure, did you guys cover the Duke's 2019 regional final loss to Michigan State? Zion and Barrett and Cam Reddish and all those guys, and Mike Krzyzewski couldn't coach those guys past that Michigan State team? My God, what a stain on Krzyzewski's resume. I will always point to that one as just an absolute embarrassment. Go to hell, Duke. Love you guys. Still listening here in Texas. Y'all take care.
So we did bring up the Zion. That was in one of those lost opportunity. Also receiving votes category.
Yeah.
On that one. We did not bring up 2011 though for Duke.
As for Carolina.
For Carolina, as we discussed earlier, 2011, a very pivotal Final Four. We did not bring that one up. But again, it's all season to taste. So as far as brief history of Triangle sports is concerned, brief history of Triangle good, totally different segment.
No new ideas.
As far as a brief history of Triangle good is concerned, next week we're taking that week off because we'll be at ACC kickoff.
Yeah, we're in football mode next week.
Charlotte.
We have actual shit to talk about next week. We don't need to conjure.
It's funny. ESPN, even though we're in the middle of the All-Star break, they've decided this week is the week they're going to start talking about football. It's so funny to me. They viewed the All-Star break.
The SEC is.
This is the week we start talking football. I'm like, baseball? Okay, well, whatever. Kind of shows you where baseball is in the eyes of ESPN. So next week we're going to be at ACC kickoff. We'll discuss this a little bit more in housekeeping next week. We'll be there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Those will be our days. No podcast on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And then the following week, we're going to be at the Wyndham on
Wednesday.
On that Wednesday, I should probably text my sources to see if John Swafford is going to be hanging around again.
Yes.
So fingers crossed. The whole reason why we go to Wyndham, is to see if we can get John Swafford to sit down, right? And then the following week, you're on vacation.
Correct.
This will give me enough time to put together the finale of Brief's history of Triangle good.
I feel like you might have had one there in today's episode, but
what?
I could give a shit about Carolina.
It might not show up, but we are going to give you. It's a ripoff of a podcast I've been listening to. Rob Harvilla. It's 60 Songs That Explain the 90s. It's a very good podcast for me. Yeah, 60 Songs That Explain the 90s. A very, very good podcast. Now he's doing the 2000s edition, but we will give you the sound bites that explain the last 25 years.
There's so many to choose from. Do we have them becomes the question.
We will have
access.
We will have access to them.
Perfect.
I finally figured out where they were
Okay.
And I am in the process of corralling
Securing
them.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's August 13th. That's a Wednesday.
That'll be the finale.
And we will be in Nature's Relief in Garner on 8/21.
Perfect. So that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Thanks for everybody for listening. Hey, throw us 5 stars. 5 stars only. Positive vibes only. Helps out with all the things, algorithm and everything else. And then in a couple of weeks, we will put a wrap on our summer of brief history of Triangle Good. We were ahead of the curve, by the way. I'm seeing a lot of retrospectives in the last 25 years. Bomani's doing the top 25 athletes the last 25 years.
Oh, Steve Young sent me somebody to the college basketball coaches.
Yeah.
And he was like, Jim Calhoun's like 13. Like, what are we doing?
Well, on tomorrow's show, when we're doing live, it's officially list season.
Okay.
Like this week, like I mentioned, like ESPN's, like they're all in on football. There's also some 25-year stuff.
We have a show tomorrow, don't we?
Yeah, dude. We'll be drinking beer, eating ice cream, and having wings.
Yeah, good call.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine. You might be sleepy, but ultimately, we'll be fine. We'll see
make it work.
We'll see you at Shady's 4 o'clock for an OG Live.